We'd run out of other options, having tried National Health Service, private consultants, and got nowhere.
I thought I was going to die. David thought I was going to die, and life was non-existent. I couldn't go out of the house. It was either sickness or diarrhea and weakness. My limbs were so weak, and eyesight was very poor. Television, writing, gardening, everything that I loved to do was an impossible task. It was rather like flu. I would get up thinking I should, and I'd sit right down again thinking I just can't.
When we eventually went to a stomach specialist with the constant vomiting and diarrhea, they basically, without any tests, said, you're diabetic, it's diabetic bowel neuropathy. And when it gets bad enough, go away, take this heavy-duty laxative. When it gets too much, we can give you a colostomy?
Bag, yeah.
Yes, which sounded pretty, and absolutely no advice about how you could live with it or reduce the effects.
But then it was worse. Diabetes was getting worse. They said my blood pressure was really bad because low or high, you can't tell at the time, but it was generally low, I think, when I'd been sick.
Yes.
And then I was laid up for a day or two. I couldn't stir myself.
We did eventually, after 2 years after the first encounter with when first suggested that it was diabetic bowel neuropathy, we did see a second, it would be the third specialist, effectively privately, and this was the first chap who eventually did tests, which he said he was pretty sure indicated it wasn't that, but he didn't know what it was, and he really hadn't got anything else he could do to try and identify what it was. So we really were stuck with nowhere to go. It was like meeting the most professional specialist we'd ever encountered, or I suspect ever likely to encounter. And he went through the list very thoroughly and then said, we've got to start somewhere.
He was kindness. You felt I don't know, his eyes looked directly at you. Respect, I don't know, something you don't get with all the other physicians that we've seen or the doctor. I lay on the couch. I was very relaxed. Just a minute of not quite explaining what he was going to do, because it wouldn't have meant anything to me or to David at the time. He said this might hurt a bit, as he undid my colon spasm.
I think it was okay.
Yeah. I could tell, maybe on the third visit, where I could always feel that there was a rummage, is all I can say. That's healing nicely, Paul would say. But he's actually saying, yes, it's improving. And I could tell it was improving. I might have had the very rare sickness, but that was from stress for whatever reason was happening in my life. But it wasn't ever as bad again.
I was actually, Anita wasn't counting, but I'd actually got it built in so that I could look at a calendar and have it calculate how many days it's the last attack and so on. And of course, big milestones when it got to 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and these things hadn't reoccurred.
There's no spasms, so
No, that's great. Thanks to you.
again,
Paul says I would not have died, but we both thought and expected that I was going to die. I was getting weaker and weaker. My muscle tone was going, all sorts of things. You know, the clearing of my eyes and the advice on all the other little niggles, which were big things for me, but all rolled together. It was just ruining everything we had.
We have both got our lives back, and that is totally thanks to Paul, Gillian, Raymond. Without them, I hate to think where we would be.
And he explains everything so beautifully and precise, and he has time for you, and he cares. He's doing it all with love, and you won't get that anywhere else.